Tonight, this is an important evening. The New York Giants are taking on the Eagles. They just kicked off. Playoff implications at stake. And I come from Los Angeles. If the Lakers were playing tonight, this room could not be full of people who want to nonetheless hear about some ideas. So I'm inspired by your presence. But there's so much more in common with us tonight and what's going to happen at Giants Stadium than you at first blush might think. There's actually a profound connection. A couple of years ago, Tom Coughlin, the coach of the New York Giants, his job was on the line, and his owners told him that if he doesn't win, he's out. And he went on a transformational journey. He used to be considered an autocratic, distant figure. He used to find players who came early to meetings because they didn't come early enough. He would put buckets on the field and tell his players that if they don't throw up into these buckets, he will assume they didn't play hard enough. And when he fought for his job, he could have hunkered down, yelled even louder, and been more commanding and more in sync with the Colonel, which became his nickname. And instead, he decided to extend trust to his players. He set up a leadership council in the locker room and told his players, you make some key decisions. He started to connect with them outside of football because, after all, it's more than a game. And he talked to them about their families and life off the field, about performing on the field and behaving off the field. And then he enlisted them in an ethic of what a champion does and how a champion ought to behave. And they beat the New England Patriots, who was heavily favored in the Super Bowl. Tom Coughlin understands that we have entered the world of behavior. Not only is behavior under more scrutiny, as Tiger Woods is living through these days, than ever before, behavior is actually a source of advantage if you can use behavior to relate to people in new ways. So the journey that Tom Coughlin went on, I believe, is a metaphor for the journey of what we're going to describe in the next hour together and through some dialogue with you. A journey for individuals, a journey for leaders, and a journey for countries, governments, and companies, of course.
So I'm working on this book called The World is Flat. And the argument at its simplest is that what flattened the world was the convergence of three basic things. The first was the fact that for the first time in the history of the world, men and women, thanks to the PC, the personal computer, men and women could author their own content in digital form. Now that sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook, I know. Men and women have authored their own content ever since they could etch on cave walls. But with the personal computer, what the PC did was allow us as individuals to author our own content, that is words, stories, data, spreadsheets, software, music, video. We could author all those things on a PC in digital form, in the form of bits and bytes. And when your content was in digital form, suddenly you could send it to so many more places. Well, that PC, shortly after, coincided with another invention, and that was the internet, and the wiring of the world with fiber optic cable. You know, there were a lot of bad things about the dot-com bubble. A lot of people lost money in them. But one of the great things about the dot-com bubble was we made a massive, ridiculous, absurd, utterly outrageous overinvestment in fiber optic cable. And without anybody planning it, we accidentally wired Beijing, Bangalore, Brooklyn, and the Bronx all together. So all those people who just got their PCs and were authoring their content in digital form suddenly had an internet, a set of pipes, where they could send their content anywhere in the world virtually for free. And then came along the third thing I call workflow software. Workflow software, in my lingo, is simply the compilation of all those transmission protocols, all that alphabet soup that you see on websites, HTML, HTTP, XML, AJAX, SOAP, all that alphabet soup. You don't need to know what any of it means. All you need to know is what it did was something that our kids don't remember. They don't know how revolutionary it did. It was a quiet revolution. But I can see you out there, and you look more my age. And what you remember is when you first got email, your wife got CompuServe, and you got AOL, and they didn't connect. What that whole alphabet soup of transmission protocols did was make every computer and software program in the world interoperable. That was a revolution. Suddenly I could sit in Bethesda, Maryland, where I live, and communicate with someone in Bangalore where they lived over this internet without thinking for a minute, what computer am I on? A Mac or a PC? What computer are they on? What software are they running? What software am I running? Now you put all three of those together, and you basically have the genesis of the flat world. Suddenly, in a space of about a decade, more people could communicate with more other people in more ways about more stuff for less money faster than ever before. That's what flattened the world. It made us all collaborators. Now, off that platform, a whole new set of other flatteners emerged. One is outsourcing. One was offshoring. But the one that's most relevant to Dov's work is something I call uploading. It was a term coined by Kevin Kelly, the founder of Wired. What that platform allowed us to do as individuals was to upload our content and globalize it. Now, the most famous and the first form of uploading was open source software. A bunch of geeks sitting at home in their basement, writing operating systems and uploading them and sharing them with the world. And then along came Wikipedia. Suddenly the people started writing their own dictionary, encyclopedia, and uploading the content to the world. And then there was YouTube. Suddenly people started uploading their videos. Then there was blogging. Suddenly I'm competing with the whole world about opinion writing overnight. And then handheld cell phone cameras came along, and everyone suddenly was a paparazzi. Now, in a world where everyone is a potential newspaper columnist, a blogger, everyone is a potential paparazzi who has a cell phone with a camera, and everyone is a potential filmmaker with YouTube, in that world, everyone else is a public figure. You, me, the next person. And if you're really a public figure, through your work, whether in business or entertainment or media or government, it's really scary out there.
And Tom, what I said about behavior, I think behavior has always mattered. But it matters now in unimaginable ways because of the world that you've described. You've connected dots that most of us can't see. You've explained how the world works and the implications of how the world works in profound ways, but you've illuminated for us the journey we need to go on. And your explanation has catalyzed so many people and so many organizations and political leaders to go on this journey of understanding that we have two choices. In this hot, flat, and crowded world, in this hyper-connected, flat world, we can hunker down and avoid exposure and cling to the frameworks and our habits of thought and behavior that got us here. Or we can lean into this world and say, what about it must I understand? And how do I turn its conditions to my advantage?
So, Dov, how did you get to how?
I need a couch. I'm in the inspiring principled performance business. I've always felt that behavior need not be like playing goalkeeper. Every soccer team wants to have the best goalie in the world, and they tell the goalie, stand over there and make sure that you don't give up any goals. Believe playing to us, because everybody wants to kick the ball and score goals. And I think that how we behave is part of how we advance and get to where we want to go. And I've always had this optimistic view of behavior that we need not associate it with managing risk and the downside, and that behave is what we tell a kid right after he misbehaved. Behave yourself. But why not outbehave? Why not see that behavior could be a source of competitive advantage? So how was born from that idea? It became more resonant in this flat world that you describe. And its first order of resonance was in a world in which nothing stays hidden, we ought to act as though we have nothing to hide. Everybody's a paparazzi. But more importantly, the flat world is not just a transparent world, it's a connected world. And if the only reason one of you works at your company is what they pay you, you should leave if someone pays you more. If the only reason you buy from a company is the price of the product, then you should switch your loyalties if someone undercuts them. Tom, in a connected world, we're exposing the nature of our connections. Are they loose? Are they superficial? Are they transactional? Are they here and now? Or are they deep? Are they meaningful? Are they sustainable and lasting? So in a connected world, we are all in search of deeper forms of connection. In a connected world, those of us and those companies that make the deepest connections get to win. How we relate to others, how we consistently say what we mean what we say, and follow through. How we engender trust in our relationships so we can have tight collaborations. How we say I'm sorry is this deep source of connection.
Well, before we go to sort of the next area, which is how this applies to the environmental world, I think it is appropriate here to ask you about, someone who's in the middle of this firestorm right now. And it really is appropriate, and that is Tiger Woods. Accenture, one of his biggest clients, who plastered his image in every airport in the world. Yeah. You see it in Europe, you see it in Asia. Under the logo, Be a Tiger, be like Tiger. Announced today they're dropping him. So, Dov, if IMG, Tiger's managers, had called you 2 weeks ago and said, Mr. Seidman, we know you run an ethics company, and a story is about to break in the National Enquirer that could be not only detrimental but lethal to our client, Tiger Woods, what would you have said to them?
Oh, so many things, right? Don't you understand the world you're living in? I mean, if everybody's a paparazzi, there are websites out there like TMZ. They live for this day. They're going to thrive in this world when Tiger loses his footing in this world. And what Tiger didn't understand, and what no one understands, is that you can't manage your reputation in this world. You can only earn it, one behavior, one good behavior at a time. And I wish that Tiger hung out with someone that I wrote about in my book, In How, on the golf tour, named David Toms. David Toms is a great golfer. He doesn't
won a PGA,
but he doesn't strike the ball the way Tiger does. But I think he's going to have a more sustainable career. Let me illustrate. He was competing for the British Open, and on the 17th Roadhouse hole, he putted the ball and then followed his ball to the hole, and then he tapped it in, and he handed in his card. And he went back to his hotel room, and he couldn't sleep all that well at night. He had some dissonance and friction in his mind because there's a rule in golf that says if the ball is not at a complete standstill, you're not allowed to hit it again. And he had some vision that maybe the ball was wobbling. And he didn't sleep well. So the next day he comes and he goes to the rules tent. Literally, they have rules judges. And they all hover and they watch the video together. And David Toms says, do I need to disqualify myself? And the rules judges say, you can stay or you can go. It's inconclusive. And he disqualified himself because he's a how person. He could stay, he could go. But what he should do is disqualify himself. And he said that he wants to live a life of significance. And the next time he brings himself to the ball, he wants to be continuous with his values. Had Tiger hung around with him, we wouldn't be posing the question to his PR firm. Tactically speaking, here's what I would say to Tiger. Obviously, we've been on your website. There's a picture of you, your wife, 2 kids, and 2 dogs. You're holding yourself out at $100 million a year to be this type of person. Putting morality aside, this person has nothing to do with that person, and we had a relationship with this person, and you're turning out to be that person. You owe everybody an apology. But it shouldn't be a faceless apology, a letter that they draft on his behalf on the website. It should be a real one in this world of YouTube. We should see his pain, we should see his anguish, and we should see some repentance and remorse. So a real apology is more specific, and I would not have hunkered down. I would have come out right away. A real apology, a personal one, and then say, obviously, it's not lost on me that what I did is deeply troubling to so many, and I need to figure this out. So with this real apology, just give me some space. But until he does that, he's not going to get the space. Since I look at things through the lens of how, I'd like to share with you what I deem to be the ultimate how. And It comes from a philosophical paradox, the paradox of happiness. It turns out that when we pursue happiness, it tends to elude us. When we do things that bring meaning to our lives, when we're in the grip of ideas around which we're passionate, happiness tends to find us. I think there's a corollary to that in business and politics, etc., and I call it the paradox of success. What we've lived through is the direct pursuit of success, conventionally defined.
The financial crisis.
Financial crisis and otherwise. And when you go at success, like happiness, it will elude you. When you pursue significance, when you do things that are other regarding, when you are truly trying to be sustainable, when you're trying to sustain relationships, do things of significance by adding value to the lives of others, I think success tends to find us. I think the United States, each of us, our companies, if we pursue significance, success will find us. I think as a country, as individuals, and as companies, if we do things in order to make a difference, we can make money. But if we do them in order to make money, they will elude us. So I think the ultimate how is to pursue significance, and I think that that's what the United States has in its grasp. And I would like to ask you to join me in one request. We can make the word outbehave a word in the dictionary. It would be a really neat thing to do. But let's do that because we focus on our behaviors and it becomes our habit. And we'll earn our way into the dictionary because collectively we inspired others to take control of how we live our lives and conduct our affairs through our behavior.
Well, Dov, it's a great way to end. You see how fortunate I was when I happened to get into the lift with this guy. He's been out teaching me ever since. We're going to be downstairs signing books. Thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you.